The experiment begins. The chamber was quiet, too quiet for something this important. Lieutenant James Keller sat cross-legged on the obsidian floor, his hands resting loosely on his knees, his breathing steady. Above him, an array of softly pulsing blue lights illuminated the circular chamber, sterile, clinical, alien. The walls curved upward like a vast amphitheater, where a dozen species observed in silence from transparent galleries. A voice echoed across the chamber in precise, cold tones. Subject is prepared. Initiating psychic contact in 10 seconds. Keller looked up at the tall, silver-skinned being floating before him. Elix Vuren, a high-level mind-seer of the Vel'ari. His long tendrils shimmered faintly in the artificial light, his black, pupil-less eyes unblinking. The Vel'ari were revered across the Galactic Concord for their mind-reading prowess. They could peel back the layers of thought from almost any species like pages in a book. But not humans. Keller was a volunteer, representing Earth's first real foothold in the Concord. He wasn't a diplomat or a scientist, just a soldier. But perhaps that was why he was chosen. Soldiers were good at keeping calm under pressure. At least, that's what they told him. A circle of dull red light formed around them both as the ritual began. Elix's voice projected into the chamber. I will now attempt deep link contact with a human. Keller gave a slow nod. Let's get it over with. The Vel'ari floated forward, extending a thin, glowing appendage. When it touched Keller's forehead, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Keller's breath caught as a strange sensation rushed through him, like diving into ice water, then emerging into fire. For half a second, nothing happened. Then Elix screamed. It was a sound that didn't belong in a rational universe, a raw, primal shriek that pierced through the walls and through the minds of every telepath in the chamber. The Vel'ari convulsed, his limbs flailing wildly as the red circle turned into strobing violet light. Keller stumbled backward, blinking. What the hell? Elix's body lifted into the air as if pulled by invisible strings. His voice came again, but twisted, broken, echoing a dozen tones at once. The flame, the eye, the crawling shadows, they sing. They laugh, no walls, no escape. Then he collapsed. His body hit the floor with a wet thud, tendrils curling inward like scorched leaves. Silence reigned in the chamber. For one long, drawn-out moment, no one moved. Then the chaos erupted. Medical drones zipped toward the Vel'ari. Several species in the observation gallery began shouting in their own tongues. One delegate slammed his fist against the wall. What have the humans done? Keller remained on the floor, hands up. I didn't do anything. He touched me. Armed guards burst into the chamber, weapons trained on the human. Do not move, barked a voice in accented Terran. I'm not resisting, Keller muttered, still stunned. What the hell did he see? Elix was unresponsive, eyes rolled back, mouth twitching in silent panic. Within minutes, Keller was restrained and escorted from the chamber, every alien watching him with a mixture of fear, awe, and revulsion. They locked him in a featureless gray holding cell. No windows, just a table, a chair, and a surveillance orb that hovered quietly in the corner. Hours passed. Finally, the door hissed open. A tall insectoid creature entered, wearing a silver and black robe adorned with neural glyphs. Dr. Shur Veltrin, a xenoneurologist from the Hederi Collective, one of the few species in the Concord that hadn't yet declared humanity a threat. I'm not here to accuse you, Shur said in a clicking, rhythmic voice. I am here to understand what happened. Do you consent to questioning? Keller folded his arms. Fine. Just tell me, is Elix alive? Technically, Shur replied, but his mind is not intact. Keller's brow furrowed. What does that mean? The alien tapped his head. His neural activity resembles that of someone who has seen centuries of trauma in seconds. He experienced something during your mind link, something he couldn't process. Keller leaned forward. You're saying, my memories broke him? Shur considered. Not just your memories. Your mind. Your structure. Your emotions. Humans have no psionic shielding, no ordered mental lattice. Yet somehow, your species is immune to telepathic entry. Your thoughts are. He searched for the word. Violent. Not in the military sense, but in intensity. Passion, sorrow, defiance, love, rage. You don't just think these things. You live them. You bathe in them. Keller shook his head slowly. We just call that being human. Shaw stayed, unblinking. Then your species is the most mentally volatile thing the galaxy has ever encountered. And you walk through life like it's normal. A long pause. Then the alien added, almost to himself. No wonder the Mindreader screamed. Echoes in the dark. Elix Vurin trembled in the medpod, his skin slick with a thin, iridescent secretion. His eyes were open but unseeing. His tendrils twitched occasionally, as if reacting to some invisible threat. Monitors pulsed beside him, showing erratic brain activity, neural storms that wouldn't stop. He hadn't spoken since the incident, not in any coherent way, but his mouth moved sometimes, whispering, muttering fragments in no known language. Across the observation glass, Dr. Vel'ari stood with his arms folded, mandibles grinding in unease. His assistant, a soft-skinned creature from the Vel'ari species, watched the readouts nervously. He's reliving something, the assistant said quietly. His mind is trapped in a recursive loop. Trauma amplification. Shaw tilted his head. The loop isn't caused by a memory. It's caused by contact, like being inside a storm that keeps rewriting itself. They both turned to the display showing the human's brain scan, or rather, the aftermath of the mind link. It was a tapestry of electric chaos, overlapping waves of emotion, memory, instinct, and something else, something primal. Is this normal? The assistant asked. No, Shaw replied. This is human. Keller sat in his cell, elbows on the table, staring at the cold metal surface. He hadn't slept. He didn't feel tired, just wired. Like something had been cracked open in him. 2. The door opened with a soft hiss, and Shaw entered. Lieutenant Keller, the alien said in a measured tone. I need your cooperation. Keller nodded. Ask your questions. Shaw placed a small device on the table. A projector flared to life, displaying brain activity scans. One of Elix, one of Keller. This is what happened when Elix touched you, Shaw said. His neural architecture couldn't parse your consciousness. Instead of entering a mindscape, he was flooded, drowned, more accurately, by everything at once. Keller frowned. Everything. Memories, emotions, instincts. All laid, unfiltered, without order. A Vel'ari mind expects structure. You had none. Keller shrugged. We live with chaos. You adapt or you break. Shaw's eyes narrowed. That's what puzzles me. You didn't break. Your mind responded to intrusion like a living defense system. It didn't resist, it reacted. Reflexively, like pain triggers a scream. Keller leaned back, jaw tightening. You think I attacked him? No, Shaw said slowly. I think your mind defended itself. But not with force. With truth. Keller let that sit for a moment. What kind of truth? You've seen war, Shaw said. Real war. I access fragments of your files. Deployment to Tarsi's Ridge. 73 hours under artillery fire. The Helion tunnel collapse. The drone massacre on Demon 9. Keller's knuckles whitened. Humans carry things, Shaw continued. Pain, loss, guilt, without burying them. Most species suppress trauma. You endure it, even preserve it, as if remembering suffering gives it value. Keller didn't answer right away. Then he said, every scar is a lesson. Every loss, a weight you learn to carry. You either fall under it, or you stand taller. Shaw turned off the projector. To Elix, your mind was not a linear stream. It was a battlefield, and every memory bled. Keller looked up. That's not all we are. I know. That's the point. He didn't just see pain. He felt everything. Loyalty, rage, love, regret. In seconds. No filters. No barriers. No mercy. A silence hung between them, heavy. Then Shaw added, almost reverently, your mind is like fire. Destructive. Luminous. Alive. Back in the medical wing, Elix stirred. Alarms chirped softly as brainwaves spiked. He opened his mouth and gasped, a ragged, stuttering breath. One eye fluttered open, glassy and bloodshot. The med drones reacted instantly, flooding his bloodstream with stabilizers. But it was too late. He was speaking again, not screaming, not whispering, just speaking, in a tone of awe and horror. The light burns, but it sings. Doctors leaned in. I touched a storm, Elix croaked. It didn't push me out. It invited me in. He began crying. There was laughter in the ashes, and something watching, something human. Then he fell unconscious again, this time stable, but not the same. In the Tribunal's high chamber, the delegates of the Galactic Concord gathered in hushed tones. The incident had shaken everyone. Telepathic species were rattled. Military leaders were alarmed. Scientists argued. And beneath it all was the unspoken question. What exactly is the human mind, and what else might it do? The weapon you cannot touch. The Tribunal Hall of Nexar Prime was built for diplomacy, not fear. It rose like a polished obelisk over the city, its interior walls laced with transparent alloy, displaying the stars. A place of high minds, high rhetoric, and now, paranoia. Today, the seats were full, dozens of species, from wispy Jurian gas forms to the brutal scaled Hovrax. All came to decide whether humanity, newcomers to the stars, was too dangerous to be trusted. Lieutenant James Keller stood alone on the speaking platform. No chains, no weapons, no legal counsel, just a soldier in a black uniform, sleeves rolled, hands calm at his sides. Above him, 3 tribunal arbiters hovered in anti-gravity thrones. Their voices fused through a translation lattice. "You are not accused of intentional harm, Lieutenant," came the central voice. "But you stand at the center of an event that nearly killed a Vel'ari mindset. We require clarity before deciding the status of your species." Keller's reply was even. "I'll answer what I can." From the gallery, whispers rippled like wind. Some aliens watched him with curiosity, others with undisguised dread. Dr. Shaw Veltran stepped forward next. His tall frame glimmered under the tribunal lights, and his voice was methodical as he activated the projection display again. "I have studied both minds," he began, "the Vel'aris and the humans. What occurred was not aggression. It was incompatibility, like plugging a live wire into wet flesh." A few species flinched at the imagery. Shaw continued, "Human neurology processes thought differently. Their brains are not designed for clarity. They evolve in chaos, predators, starvation, war. Their minds are a constant churn of threat analysis, emotion, intuition, and memory. Most species grow more stable under stress. Humans grow sharper." He gestured toward the display. Overlapping waves of emotional frequency. The chaos of Keller's inner world. "This is normal for them." One arbiter leaned forward. "Are you suggesting the human mind is a biological weapon?" "No," Shaw said. "It is not designed to harm, but it is not safe for telepathic contact." There was a pause. Then a high-ranking Vel'ari elder, gray-skinned, tendrils limp with age, rose from her seat in the gallery. She bowed slightly. "I speak on behalf of the Vel'ari," she said. "We acknowledge that Elix initiated the contact. We also acknowledge the human did not resist. But we cannot ignore what happened. He is still unconscious. He whispers things none of our kind have ever conceived. He dreams of burning cities that laugh." A rustle of unease spread through the chamber. "He dreams of war that never ends," she added, softer now, "and of loving those lost in the middle of it." Keller finally spoke. "You call it chaos. We call it memory. We don't erase what hurts us. We carry it, because it reminds us what we're fighting for." The room fell silent. Then Shaw stepped back in. "There's something else," he said, slowly. "What Elix saw wasn't just trauma. It was resistance. The human mind didn't open like a book. It fought back, not with anger, but meaning, with images that burned themselves into Elix's thoughts. Soldiers standing against impossible odds. Children singing in ruined cities. A mother holding her dead son and smiling through tears. Many in the chamber looked away. That is what broke Elix, Shaw said. Not hate. Hope. One arbiter leaned back, as if physically staggered. Another delegate, from the crystalline race known as the Draenei, spoke up. If human thoughts are that volatile, what happens when they want to hurt someone? Keller's face darkened slightly. Then you'd see what real hell looks like. That answer didn't calm anyone. The tribunal recessed for deliberation. Hours passed. When the verdict came, it was a compromise. Humanity would remain part of the Galactic Concord, but all telepathic contact was banned, and Lieutenant Keller was to be exiled from Nexar Prime, effective immediately. A soft hum passed through the audience. Relief, resentment, and something else, respect. As Keller was escorted out, several alien observers, curious, cautious, approached him in whispers. "We want to learn," one said quietly. A young Teleri scholar, eyes bright. "Not your weapons, your resilience. What makes you endure?" Another, a Luthri War veteran, handed him a data crystal. "I've seen 100 battles, but never looked at fear the way you do. If you ever teach, send word." Keller tucked the crystal away and offered a thin smile. "You sure? It might break your brain." The Luthri laughed. "Maybe, but if it doesn't, maybe I'll finally understand how you people survive yourselves." Later, as his shuttle lifted off from Nexar Prime, Keller looked out the viewport one last time. He didn't feel like a threat, but he did feel like a warning. The universe had just learned a simple truth. You can study humans, fight them, even fear them, but never, ever, try to touch their minds. The fire they tried to hold. The stars outside Keller's shuttle window burned cold and indifferent, scattered like memories across the dark. He'd left Nexar Prime behind, but the events hadn't left him. The Tribunal's ruling had shaken the Galactic Concord to its core. Humanity remained a member, technically, but now with a stigma that no diplomatic doctrine could erase. A species too volatile to touch, too dangerous to read, too human to understand. He stared at his reflection in the shuttle glass, the sharp angles of his face, the stillness in his eyes. He didn't feel dangerous, but that wasn't how the Concord saw it. Not after Elix. Not after what he screamed. On the other side of the galaxy, deep within a fortified Vel'ari sanctuary, Elix Vuren finally awoke. He wasn't the same. His body was intact, his mind fragmented but rearranged. Rebuilt around something he hadn't understood before, something no telepath in Vel'ari history had ever processed. Emotion unfiltered, suffering chosen, pain carried like a crown. Elix stood in his stasis chamber, trembling as he took his first step forward. One of the healers approached cautiously, speaking in slow tones. "You are safe now. You don't have to relive it." Elix turned, voice hoarse. "But I do." At a secure Concord think tank orbiting Polaris 3, Dr. Shur Veltran presented his final report to a roundtable of elite researchers, military analysts, and xenopsychologists. The title read, "On the Inviolability of the Human Psyche, a Structural Analysis of Sentient Volatility." His conclusions were simple and terrifying. Telepathy requires structure, a sequence, a pattern. The human mind does not follow patterns. It is not an open book. It is a wildfire, and wildfires do not welcome readers. They consume them. Shaw didn't ask for humans to be quarantined. He didn't call them monsters. But he did end his briefing with a warning. You may think you can understand them one day, but ask yourself, if you stay too long into their fire, what happens when the fire stays back? James Keller was reassigned to a deep-range listening post on the edge of Concord territory, a diplomatic way to remove him from sight without officially punishing him. He didn't complain. He never asked to be a symbol. The station was small, quiet, lonely. He liked it that way. His only companion was a simple AI named Wren, who handled most of the monitoring systems. She had no opinions, no reactions, just calculations and alerts. But Keller often found himself talking to her anyway. "Do you think they are right?" he asked one night, staring into the black between stars. "That we're broken inside?" Wren responded in her soft, neutral voice. "Define broken." He chuckled. Fair point. There were days when the silence felt heavy. Nights when he replayed Elix's scream in his head. Not out of guilt, out of curiosity. What had the alien actually seen? Had he felt the heat of burning cities? Had he stood beside Keller in the blood-soaked tunnels of Demon 9, holding a rifle with one bullet left? Had he heard the lullaby Keller's mother used to sing, echoing through a memory of a ruined Earth dusk? Maybe he'd seen everything, the rage and the tenderness. And maybe that was what truly broke him. Not the violence, but the love buried beneath it. Then came the signal. A faint, encrypted packet, flagged by Rand for irregular language patterns. Unknown source. Unscheduled broadcast. Priority flag. Elix Vuren, Vel'ari High Se. Keller sat up straight. Play it, he said. The voice that followed was rasped and slow, but unmistakable. James Keller, I have recovered. A pause. Then, I speak not for my people now, but for myself. What I saw inside you, it was not madness. It was not danger. It was truth. And truth is not meant to be easy. Another pause. I do not wish to read more humans, but I do wish to learn from you. There is strength in pain carried with purpose. That is a kind of wisdom the galaxy has forgotten. Keller's mouth tightened. Asterisk asterisk, you were not meant to be read. Elix finished. You were meant to be heard. Transmission ended. For the first time in weeks, Keller leaned back and smiled. Not wide, not arrogant, but quietly, purposefully. Back on Earth, the news of the Tribunal leaked. Not the full transcript, but enough. Alien Mindreader collapses after reading human soldier's mind. Concord bans telepathy on humans. Declares psyche combustible dot. Humanity, too hot to handle. The headline sparked both fear and pride. But in the quiet corners of Earth's war colleges, think tanks, and classrooms, a new doctrine began to form. Not about weapons, or ships, or alliances. It was about identity. That being human was not a weakness, not something to edit or conceal. It was something terrifyingly honest. The fire the universe tried to hold. And dropped, burned, and awestruck.